She was born into polygamy. Her family followed the teachings of Joseph Smith, including plural marriage. Like many young girls, she had been promised to a man who was her father's age. But she ran away. She chose hell over a life of polygamy. That girl was me. I was lost, alone, desolate. Then Jesus Christ found me and rescued me. In His love, I found real freedom. He is a shield to all who will take refuge in Him. This is why I can look back and ask, polygamy? What love is this? Welcome to our show, Polygamy, What Love Is This? I'm your host, Doris Hanson, and we're here with Earl Erksine, our co-host, to discuss polygamy as introduced and taught by Joseph Smith and as practiced by today's Mormon fundamentalist. It's great to be here again.
Yes, nice. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here every time and sharing this information with our viewers.
It's fascinating stuff.
New stuff coming up and new things that we dig up all the time.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, actually, our show was about the All Red Polygamy Group, with an update of the new sexual allegations against their leader, Lynn Thompson. And this time we're going to update our viewers on the FLDS polygamy group, the newest news, and of course our comments on what's going on. As always, we do want our polygamous viewers and those who are questioning the polygamy way of life and the polygamous claims that they must live polygamy in order to get into eternal life. We want you to question what you've been told. And we do hope to point out those who do questions. We want to point you into the direction where you'll find God's answers to your questions. And every question is important. Don't let anyone ever tell you that your question shows a detrimental lack of faith, or that because you are questioning you should feel guilty for wanting answers, because that just plain is not true. You are not insignificant, and neither are your questions, but we encourage you to dare to doubt. Doubting can be healthy if it leads you to research with the desire to find the truth and to reject everything but the truth. People who have nothing to hide will hide nothing. People who have nothing to lie about will lie about nothing. And if you or anyone you know needs help getting out of a polygamous situation, give us a call. We can help, and we do help those who want to leave. We provide a safe place for you to go, and everything that we do is held in strict confidentiality. If you do need help getting out or to escape, give us a call toll free. We have a toll-free number for you if you're out of state or out of town, and the number is 800-425-9993. Now, for our other viewers who want to make comments or suggestions about our show or the content of our show, you can email us, and that address is email@whatloveisthis.tv, or you can call us at 385-240-2888. Now, that number is for those who want to comment on the show. The toll-free number is only for those who want help with polygamy, getting out of polygamy. So let's see what's going on with the FLDS group of polygamists. First of all, the FLDS have colonized areas in the western states and Canada to protect their lifestyle as well as to keep their secrets. Now, there's a colony of the FLDS on a compound in Pringle, South Dakota, and they've been there for several years, and it's fenced in like the El Dorado Ranch was, and they even have a guard tower in order to spy on people who come and go, and there should be a picture on your screen showing that guard tower. Now, no one can leave the Pringle, South Dakota compound without being detected. So they're up there watching people come and go. Now, this is a free country.
Yeah, you'd think.
You would think.
Some
Well, why are
freedoms.
they putting up with this kind of imprisonment in a free country? Now, the leader of this colony of FLDS polygamists is Warren Jeffs' brother, Seth Jeffs, and they are legally registered as the United Order of South Dakota, a religious trust of the FLDS. Now, recently they've made a request to double their water usage for their compound in Pringle, and an interesting story has developed from that application. It seems that Pringle has learned from El Dorado, which is great, and they are rightly suspicious of the FLDS, and they're questioning the reason behind their request for more water. We're quoting from an ABC News article about that.
Yes, it says a lawyer from the sect had asked that evidence about its faith, information about the trust, and personal details of members be barred from the water hearing, saying those issues weren't relevant to the water application. Although the board disagreed, Seth Jeffs seemed reluctant to answer questions, drawing the board's ire and skepticism. Jeffs repeatedly said he doesn't know how many people live at the compound, though he spends almost all of his time there. He said he would need the authorization of the trust leaders to conduct a census at the compound, and that he doesn't walk into people's houses and intrude on their privacy.
Well, that's not what a census is all about. No, I don't believe that at all. Now, Seth Jeffs has repeatedly said he doesn't know how many people live there, yet he says he lives there. And believe me, these polygamist group and the leadership knows everything about everybody. There's no hiding the kind of information of the population from them, and they do know how many people live there. Their secrecy and their crime-ridden history have raised concerns about how many people live at the Pringle compound, and rightly so.
Especially asking for water.
Yeah, double the water.
Yeah.
And of course that may indicate that they're moving more people onto the property, and that's concerning too. So we have another quote from another ABC article.
Michael Hickey, an attorney, said Seth Jeffs is a felon and that granting the request wasn't in the public interest. Jeffs pleaded guilty in 2006 to harboring Warren Jeffs as a fugitive.
So he broke the law, and of course they're going to protect everything they can about their polygamy group. And we trust that South Dakota will continue to do their due diligence and watch for illegal activities of the FLDS in Pringle. They haven't earned public trust, and they are well known for illegal activities like the child brides and the child pregnancies and child abuse and sex trafficking. And just as a side note, last year the YFZ Ranch in El Dorado, Texas was confiscated by the state of Texas because it had been used for criminal activity. The ranch consists of 1,691 acres of prime land, and anyone with $23 million is welcome to place an offer of purchase. Now, regarding the YFZ Ranch in El Dorado, we want to quote from an October 23rd, 2014 article in the El Dorado newspaper called the El Dorado Success.
All is quiet at the YFZ Ranch, or so it might appear from the outside looking in. Right now, things are held up by a temporary restraining order that prevent members of the FLDS Church from removing the remainder of their equipment until it can determine who owns the equipment. The sheriff, David Doran, explains that he was surprised by the complexity of the ranch's infrastructure. Almost everything is underground. That includes electric lines, waters and sewer lines, fiber optic cable, and computer network cabling. He said he also located a couple of hidden rooms, one in a large H-shaped house that was believed to have been the residence of Warren Jeffs, and a second in an even larger and newer H-shaped building that resembles a hotel. Access to the rooms was through doorways that were hidden behind shelves. The sheriff said the security office was a high-tech room where multiple cameras and other security systems could be monitored.
So they got in there and they're really finding out what was going on in those structures. Now, Sheriff Duran in El Dorado said that taking charge of this large ramp was like being in charge of running a city, and it's his sole responsibility until the ranch can be sold. Now, the FLDS polygamy group have gone high-tech. We just read that in the article. And the public, as well as the government, should realize that some of the other polygamy groups have already also gone high-tech and using this high-tech to spy on members. They use their high-tech secretly to monitor people and their activities. They also monitor outsiders who may want to come in and discover or report on what might be going on inside or outside of the FLDS compound homes and so on. For instance, cameras that are constantly watching visitors who come and go in the Colorado City and Hilldale towns. Freedom of religion is used in an argument by polygamists in their insistence that the government leave them alone, yet every day they deprive their own members their rights, and especially to be able to make an educated choice. They demand rights for themselves, but they do not give rights to their members. So we ask polygamists who watch this show, and we especially appeal to the young adults who are able to watch, Why should polygamy group leaders hold their members hostage using brainwashing, guilt trips, threats of condemnation and damnation, and virtual imprisonment to keep their members in the group? Why not offer full disclosure classes in polygamy groups, inviting outsiders to come and teach the class, and then give each member of the group, male or female, the freedom to choose life inside or outside the group based on educated options? And of course, that choice must not be coercive. This question also could apply to the Mormon Church. If they are Christian, as they claim to be, why don't they allow biblical Christians to come and teach in their religion classes?
That would be interesting.
And give a Christian, instead of a Mormon, biblical viewpoint of the Bible so that educated choices can be made. Well, now let's go to the FLDS compound in Canada, which is led by Winston Blackmore. He is said to have 24 or more or less, plus or minus, wives. Now, Blackmore skirts the laws, and I ask you to pardon the pun, against polygamy. In fact, his fight against anti-polygamy laws caused a long, drawn-out, well-researched court reference case in Canada to determine if it was constitutional for Canada to have laws against polygamy. Their research took a couple of years, but eventually the High Court determined that it was within their Charter of Rights to ban polygamy in Canada, and they did. The court determined that polygamy was abusive to women and children, and that their safety and welfare was more important than a man's presumed right to have more than one wife. Now, on our website, shieldandrefuge.org, we have 12 video affidavits of the witnesses' testimonies that were given to help determine that reference case in Canada. Canada has now filed charges against Winston Blackmore for practicing polygamy, and Blackmore can no longer claim that it's a religious privilege. And new evidence has also come to light since the 2008 raid of the YFZ Ranch in El Dorado, and some of this evidence has revealed some of Winston Blackmore's alleged illegal activities. Now, he's in Canada. That's in USA, so some of it is supposedly trafficking. Now, we must always remind our polygamous viewers that religious rights do not include the right to break the law. Polygamy is illegal in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And Blackmore's trial is set to begin next January 2016.
Would he come to America to flee America? Or be less
he's
tracking than Canada?
I have no idea what he would do. I don't think so. He hasn't before. He hasn't done that before. So I don't know if he would now or not. But he's got a lot of wives to think about there.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go to the FLDS in Colorado City and Hilldale, Utah, the twin polygamous cities on the Utah-Arizona border. Now that Warren Jeffs is behind bars, his brother Lyle Jeffs has been taken over the leadership. Now, Lyle Jeffs serves as special counselor to Warren Jeffs, and he's a bishop in the FLDS polygamy group. Now, that's important because I want to bring a Bible verse to bear on this situation, and we've used this same verse many times before, but should never be forgotten as we place polygamy and polygamists under the magnifying glass of biblical scrutiny and authority.
There's actually two scriptures in Timothy. 1 Timothy, a bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, and in Titus, an elder must be blameless, the husband of but one wife.
But one wife. Now, remember that every Mormon polygamist reveres and follows Joseph Smith, and Joseph Smith and all contemporary Mormon-based polygamists refer to the Bible as their authority to live polygamy simply because some of the Old Testament men did. And they use the Bible in error, saying God commanded these Old Testament men to take multiple wives, despite the fact that every passage in the Bible that has to do with polygamy tells a very negative and destructive story. And the Bible says church leaders are not to have more than one wife. And the leaders are supposed to be example of the people. So he's a bishop, and he has more than one wife, this Warren Jeffs' brother. Joseph Smith had over 33 wives. Warren Jeffs had over 80 wives. Lyle Jeffs, who we're now talking about, has 9 wives, and he's a bishop, and he is not following the Bible that he says tells him he can live polygamy. And his first and legal wife is Charlene Jeffs, and she's filing for divorce from Lyle Jeffs. She's asking for legal custody of 2 of their 10 children, saying that many of the practices of the FLDS are illegal. We quote from an article in the Salt Lake Tribune.
I actually don't have that.
You don't
sorry.
have that one?
I don't have that one. Charlene Lyle Jeffs, 58, discusses life in the FLDS under her husband and his imprisoned brother Warren Jeffs, from restrictive diets to sexual policies that she refers to as rape. Under Lyle's reign as substitute prophet, the FLDS church has become even more disturbing than it was under Warren.
Oh my goodness. And you know, Charlene, she said that she has no desire to return to the FLDS and knows that if she doesn't get legal custody, she will never be allowed to see the children again. So we're going to quote from another article from the Salt Lake Tribune.
The Jeffs family is the FLDS equivalent of the British royal family, and they have their own FLDS Secret Service to protect them from the outside world. Charlene Jeffs explained in her petition, "If Lyle had any idea that I have gone apostate, he would make my children disappear to one of the many hidden FLDS communities in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, or somewhere new altogether, and I would never find them."
Isn't that awful?
Sad.
And see, that's one of those things about the Pringle compound. You know, he could be moving people up there and kids, or what, and nobody would ever know it because he claims nobody knows who lives there.
Transfer kids around.
Yeah, In her petition, Charlene talked about some of the practices of the FLDS, including how only seed bearers are allowed to have sex with women while their husbands hold the wives of the hands of the wives they're raping. And what kind of an evil and debauched mind thinks these things up? It certainly isn't from God. Charlene was afraid that her daughters would soon be forced to comply with this treatment if they remained in her husband's custody. So she fought to get her out. And at first Lyle just refused to relinquish the children, but later he agreed to do so. And we can't help but wonder what Charlene knows that she might have threatened to make public if he didn't let her have the kids. It's too bad that every mother who escapes the prisons of polygamy cannot get legal custody of her children, as simply as that. Some of them have to fight so hard just to be able to see their kids. And next, the Department of Justice is pursuing claims that polygamous leaders, city leaders, and the law enforcement officers who are members of the FLDS have used their authority to benefit the faithful FLDS members, but provided insufficient services and often with antagonistic responses to non-FLDS members. The federal government's lawsuit alleges that the Colorado City Marshal's Office, which serves both the cities on both sides of the Utah-Arizona border, enforces the edicts of the FLDS Church and fails to provide public services to non-FLDS individuals and fails to protect non-FLDS individuals from being victimized by FLDS members. In other words, if you're a polygamist, we'll help you. If you're not, we'll hurt you.
Yeah.
It's normal procedure when someone leaves the FLDS and other polygamy groups to be forced to leave their children behind, because the polygamy group will not allow them to take the children with them, which is a very cruel and coercive practice. And once they leave, they're called apostates. They're spit upon, they're shunned, it's like death to them, they're cut off. Family members are not allowed to see those so-called apostates ever again. And all this takes place in the United States of America, the land of the free. Now, we are going to get into red flags, and this is very important, especially for people in polygamy groups, especially young females in polygamy groups. And the red flags are alerts. That's what they are. They're alerts. They're something for you or us to watch out for. They're things that should make us question authoritative voices in our lives, no matter who that authority is. Now, many folks who follow what's going on in the polygamy groups are probably familiar with who Rebecca Musser is. She is a survivor of the Warren Jeffs terror and is part of the reason that he's in prison for the rest of his life. She wrote a book entitled The Witness Wore Red, and she has a website with some great information for anyone who's in a coercive environment and perhaps doesn't realize that what's happening to them is not only morally wrong but illegal and criminal. On her website is a flyer that can be downloaded and used to help you or someone that you may know who needs this kind of information. The flyer is entitled Red Flags for Girls and Females. you need to know that you are specific targets, and that those who target you don't come to you dressed up in wicked clothing, explaining to you how much they want to hurt you or exploit you. They don't appear that way. They come like a wolf in sheep's clothing. They sound good, they look good, they talk sweet, they hold authority over you, and they lie through their teeth. And we want you to be aware. In polygamy groups, the leaders need females more than they need males to maintain a state of continued growth for the group. Multiple females for every male is the substance and foundation of every polygamy group. So extra males are of little value. And once the leaders obtain another wife, that female also becomes of little value. She's just one wife of many, and from that point, her ability to pop out babies determines her value. We want to share the warnings that Rebecca Musser gives. She calls it the 8-point skill set. 8 red flags for all females to watch out for, especially you females in polygamy groups. So we're going to start with red flag number 1. Do you have that on yours?
I guess I don't, Doris. I'm sorry. Share that with you. First of all, the very first one is understand your needs. The red flag when one person's needs or wants hurt another.
And so, you know, the people need to realize that your needs are as important as anybody else's needs.
But in the group, you're kind of pushed into believing that the group's more important than you are.
Or the leaders are more important. Okay? And the next red flag, number 2, is understand your rights. You need to know your rights. When your voice is not being heard and you don't have a say, that's a red flag. Now, every United States citizen has rights. Polygamy groups especially usually will deny their members many of their rights, and they have a right to voice your opinion. You have a right to voice your opinion and make your own decisions. That's just United States says so.
That's right. Number 3, separate words and actions. The red flag is when words or actions are contradictions or are especially harmful given a person's title, authority, or role or relationship in your life. In other words, if they say one thing, do another.
yeah. If they say one thing but do something else, it's a red flag, and especially the people that have authority over you. And number 4 red flag is to measure your confidence. And the red flag is when you feel small or inadequate or inferior or anxious. Do they make you feel? Authority does that.
Yeah,
they can do that, and especially in Mormonism.
Yeah.
And they can make you feel so insignificant, especially when you fail.
Yeah, these are good. Number 5, monitor your thoughts. Red flag when your thoughts are destructive or unhealthy, and they blame you for that, I guess, don't they?
Well, they can blame you for so many things, and then your thoughts go on the negative.
Yeah.
And you know, you can think there's a lot of cutting in polygamy groups.
Is there really?
Oh yeah. They try to control what you think, and then when you fail and your thoughts go negative, then you start having destructive thoughts.
Wow.
And that's a red flag. So monitor your thoughts. Okay, number 6, measure your shame. But they're great with guilt and shame. The red flag is when you feel embarrassed or unworthy, or if you've been guilted or self-conscious, when you feel like a failure.
And they probably do that all the time.
All the time. That was my life. That's the story of my life. Polygamy groups always use fear and shame and guilt and a sense of unworthiness.
And never measuring up.
And these are red flags. So you should never be made to feel this way.
Number 7 is measure your pressure levels. Red flag is when you feel bullied, guilted, controlled, or pressured to do something you don't feel good about. And maybe that's the spirit talking to you.
Well, you know, I think it is. I think there's that little thing inside, that little voice inside that is putting these red flags out there. And they do control your life in a polygamy group, and decisions they try to make for you that belong exclusively to you. Are they forcing you to do something you don't want to do? That happens so often in polygamy groups, especially trying to get you, coerce you to marry someone that you don't want to marry. And then the 8th red flag, and this is so important to everybody, own your right to say no. The red flag is when you feel that you do not agree or feel that you are being trespassed, abused, or wronged.
They don't even give themselves the right to think that, probably, do they?
No, they don't. They don't think that anyone has the right to say no, especially the patriarchs, especially the male authority.
Wow.
They can't say no to their male, but you do have the right to say no. Now, you can download this flyer from our website. The link is on the screen. It's RebeccaMusser.com. And Rebecca writes on this flyer that your life has infinite value and purpose. And she is so right. What she said is true. Your purpose is much greater to God than being a mere baby factory. We all need to discover our purpose. It's a God-given purpose that is for our infinite good, our infinite joy, and our special relationship with Jesus Christ. And it never includes being the plural wife of a man who's trying to earn a godhood that doesn't even exist. And that is one thing that is very difficult in the polygamy groups, because you have to live polygamy to please God, and you have to live polygamy to please your father, and you have to live polygamy to please any of the other authority, and there's so much authority over you.
And you're expected to live polygamy in heaven. And this is the testing ground for that, right?
It is the testing
I'm sure
ground.
that's part of the rationale.
That's part of the rationale, and of course they do say that the greater your obedience is to the authority here, the greater your reward is in heaven. Now the Mormons teach
They do.
that as well.
The harder your work, the more you sacrifice, I guess.
That's exactly right. The more you sacrifice, the greater it's going to be. So we challenge our viewers, and we, especially those in polygamy groups, and we encourage you to dare to doubt. They shame you not to doubt, but dare to doubt. And watch out for those red flags, because they are so important to pay attention to. When something, especially the one where she said, if something feels wrong, then you need to doubt. You need to wonder about it. You have your right to check it out, and you have your right to say, no, that is what we're supposed to do. The Bible tells us to test everything. And if they believe in what Jesus taught, then they have the right to test everything. Well, thank you, Earl. I appreciate your help with this.
Sorry about the little
time.
glitch, though.
Whatever. Well, those things happen.
Those happen.
We're not as high-tech as the FLDS. You know, to those born in polygamy groups, you have been brainwashed to believe that your purpose in life is to obey your polygamous parents and your leaders without question. They will pull the God card on you, blaming God for all the pain and deprivation that you must suffer, and insist on your strict obedience as if they are God. But the Bible teaches a different idea. When given the choice to obey our parents or Jesus, we must always choose to obey Jesus. And Jesus taught monogamy, not polygamy. And he taught that the only way to heaven is through him, and that there is not one single religious work that you can do to earn your way to heaven, and there's not one single religious group on God's kingdom on earth that's his kingdom. That's what Jesus taught. See you next time.